Welcome to Horrorland, where nightmares come to life.
Alternative dates. Hotel skin of her bones.
Karu Marie O'Donna, Loma Milano Carano.
What's up, you guys, and welcome back to another episode of Shiver Shelf, where this week we'll be talking about the 9th book in Goosebumps. Welcome to Camp Nightmare. The phrase on the front of Welcome to Camp Nightmare, it's the little camp of horrors. And the phrase on the back of Welcome to Camp Nightmare, those scary stories about camp are all coming true. I wonder if it means, like, stories from Camp Crystal Lake. I mean, like, yeah, it's bad because people are going to be dying, but that means there are certain parts where it's going to get, you know. Woohoo! Saucy! So what is this story about? The food isn't great, the counselors are a little strange, and the camp director, Uncle Al, seems sort of demented. Okay, so Billy can handle all that, but then his fellow campers start to disappear. What's going on? Why won't his parents answer his letters? What's lurking out there after dark? Camp Night Moon is turning into Camp Nightmare. For real. And Billy might be next.
Kid's gonna die tonight!
First, let's start off with the cover of this book. The cover of this book reminds me of a fear that I had while I was camping when I was younger. The fear that there was always something outside of my tent trying to get in without me noticing. Because look at it, there's a hand reaching into the opening of the tent, there's a pair of eyes staring there, and if you look real closely, there's like a bit of a face. You're just looking like, I don't want any part of that. And the whole background just seems so eerie. It's just, Now, for the story. Believe it or not, there really isn't that much that's bad about this story. It's kind of surprising. If anything, I have quite a lot of praise for this story. However, we're going to start with at least one thing that I have to complain about. In the beginning of the story, Billy is on a bus with a bunch of other kids, and they're heading to Camp Night Moon. All of a sudden, the bus just stops in the middle of nowhere, and literally just leaves them there. And the kids nearly get attacked by a pack of animals before Uncle Al shows up, and he's brought his own bus, and they drive to camp the rest of the way. And when you're reading it, you're like, okay, maybe it's because, like, the other bus can't really get through wherever they're going. But the camp is literally 5 minutes away. Billy even says that himself. And he doesn't say that the road is really bumpy or anything, it's just a normal road. So why was that scene even put in there? I just feel like it was put in there just to cause some tension, which, no, you don't need to do that. However, when we get to Camp Night Moon, it is just, like when R.L. Stine describes it, I instantly picture camp from when I was a little kid. I'm just like, this really does remind me of camp. And of course, Camp Night Moon has a bunch of rules that normal camps would have. But they do have something called the Forbidden Bunk that no one is allowed to go near. And sure, even though the Forbidden Bunk isn't really explored all that much, it's still kind of creepy to think what could be in the Forbidden Bunk. And then you have the counselor of Billy's bunk, Larry, which at first, Larry seems a bit trustworthy. You're like, he seems a bit off, but maybe we can trust him. And for a little while, you're like, yeah, we can totally trust Larry. But then, like, when weird stuff starts to happen, like, Larry starts getting a bit different. Like, you're looking at him like he knows something. There is something going on, and he knows about it, and he's not telling him. And whenever the first disappearance happens, it kind of brings up another problem that I have with the story. The fact that, just a little tiny detail, something that anyone would have missed about reading in the camp brochure, that Camp Night Moon doesn't have a nurse or an infirmary. I mean, yeah, according to Larry, Uncle Al doesn't want to baby you and you have to figure out things yourself if you get hurt. So if you get hurt, you're on your own, everybody. But what if, for example, somebody broke a leg or, I don't know, had a serious injury that they needed a nurse or a professional medical person for? It just, like, that part doesn't make any sense to me. Because I don't know anything about working at a camp, but I'm pretty sure there's a regulation for nurses. Like, you have to have one at the camp, no matter what. Speaking of people disappearing in this book, when they start disappearing, it gets really creepy and you're just like, what's going on here? Why is everybody disappearing? Like, why are they going off with counselors by themselves and just disappearing? Which kind of leads to something else that I really admire about this story. This is probably one of the few Goosebumps stories that has nothing supernatural going on in it. Most of the time in Goosebumps, it's either like, oh, it's a monster, or oh, it's something that has magical powers. But this is just like a demented camp. And let me tell you, Camp Night Moon gets a little too creepy for me. And Uncle Al, the guy who's in charge of the entire place, though we do not get to interact with him all that much, you start to kind of fear and hate at the same time. Like at one point, 2 campers go missing on the river in a canoe. And the first thing he asks the counselor that took them was, well, where's the canoe at? He didn't care for the lives of the kids. He just wanted his canoe back. And I was just like, that, you monster. But then we get to the end of the story. And let me tell you, this story kind of has 2 twists to it. The first twist, let me tell you, is brilliant. You're looking at it, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see where some of this makes sense now. Yeah, that's actually really good. Yeah, good job, R.L. Stine, you did good. But then you get to twist number 2. And the only way I can describe twist number 2, imagine if you were in a race and you were about to make it to the finish line. And then you're like maybe a foot away and you end up tripping flat on your face and everybody else just walks right over you over the finish line. I kind of feel like that's how twist number 2 is, and I'm just looking at like, that is probably the weakest twist in all of Goosebumps. One of the weakest twists anyway. So at the end of the day, I'm gonna have to give Welcome to Camp Nightmare a 7 out of 10. I mean, this story is really amazing, but it has just enough to hold it back from being great. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Bye!